At my husband's retirement party, his friend stood up and said, "She's been riding his coattails for years. Wonder what she'll do now that the free ride's over." Everyone laughed loudly as my husband just smirked. Later that week, I found bank statements that proved a betrayal so deep, I walked away without a word, taking everything they thought I didn't know about. I didn't expect the humiliation to come in the form of a joke, but I guess I should have known better. My husband, Rick, was retiring after 32 years in logistics. He'd worked his way up in a supply chain company here in Columbus, Ohio.
Good money, solid benefits.
We were comfortable, not flashy. That was fine with me. We had a big retirement party for him. His company rented out a section of a country club. White linens, catering, an open bar. People flew in from out of town just to drink and pretend they liked each other for one last time. Rick loved every second of it. I wore a dark navy dress with sleeves and simple heels. He told me to keep it elegant, so I did. I made small talk with strangers, laughed politely, poured wine for people I barely knew. Same role I've played for decades. Everything was going fine, until Rick's buddy Gary stood up to give a toast. Gary's one of those loudmouth guys who still wears leather jackets and calls every waitress sweetheart. He's been Rick's friend since before I came into the picture. He clinked his glass. Everyone got quiet. To Rick, he said, 32 years of busting his ass to keep this company running. While his lovely wife, he pointed right at me, has been riding his coattails the whole way. Wonder what she's gonna do now that the free ride's over.
People laughed. Loud.
Some even clapped. I sat there with my wine in my hand, trying not to show anything on my face.
Rick?
He didn't defend me. Didn't say, "Hey man, knock it off," or "That's not funny." He just smirked, like he agreed with it. I felt my chest tighten, but I stayed quiet. I always stayed quiet. That moment stayed in my head for days. I couldn't shake it. It felt like the truth had slipped out and everyone had just decided to laugh along. 3 days later, I went into Rick's home office to start sorting papers. He had asked me to get our financial stuff in order now that he was retired. Tax forms, retirement plans, life insurance, he wanted it tidy. He always liked when I handled that part, said it was women's work. While I was going through the drawers, I found a folder I didn't recognize. No label. Inside were 5 bank statements. Not from our regular bank. This was from a credit union I'd never heard of.
It was a solo account.
Only his name on it. Each statement had transaction after transaction, withdrawals, purchases, wire transfers. Most of it wasn't shocking until I started seeing where the money went. A few hotel stays in Dayton. Jewelry stores in Cincinnati. Then a $10,000 transfer to someone named Rita Alston. I froze. It didn't make sense at first. Then it did. He was cheating. And not just sleeping around, he was financially supporting someone else. I didn't tell him what I found. Not right away. I needed to be sure. I needed to see how far it went. I called my cousin's husband, Charlie. He works in IT security and sometimes helps with cyber stuff on the side. I asked if he could look into Rick's phone and laptop. Just check if there were any messages or hidden accounts I didn't know about. He said he'd need the devices for a few hours. Rick was going golfing that Saturday, so I handed them off. When Charlie gave them back that evening, he didn't smile. "You're not gonna like this," he said, "but you need to see it." He emailed me a zip folder with screenshots. Text messages, emails, photos. There were hundreds of them. Rick and Rita. That was her. Blonde. Young. Maybe 34. A wannabe influencer with an online brand about feminine energy and luxury mindset. She called Rick my silver wolf. There were pictures of him shirtless in hotel rooms, of her in lingerie he bought her. Voice messages saying, "Can't wait for you to finally be free of her. You've done enough." The last email thread hit me hardest. It was her asking when he was going to move his money out of her reach and stop paying for her sad little life. He responded soon. "She's harmless. She doesn't even know what we have." Harmless. That word stuck in my gut like a blade. I didn't react. Not on the outside. No screaming. No slamming doors. No crying. Instead, I started writing down everything. Every account we shared. Every credit card. Every asset, title, and password. I had handled our financials for years, and Rick never paid attention. He'd sign things without reading. He didn't care as long as the fridge was full and the bills were paid. What he didn't know was that I had accounts too. Money I saved from tutoring. A small inheritance from my aunt. And a few stocks I invested in through my old friend who worked in finance. I opened a trust in a different name. Bought a small condo in German Village using that trust. Paid in full.
Quietly.
I started preparing my exit. I waited until he went out of town. He told me it was a business thing, but I knew it was a weekend with Rita in Nashville. That Friday morning, I moved everything. I transferred half of the money from our joint account, technically mine too. Then I froze all our shared credit cards. Shut off his access to our utilities and cell plan. Months earlier, I had him sign paperwork to refinance the house. He didn't read it. It gave me full ownership. That morning, I transferred the house to my name only. Then I packed.
Quietly. No fuss.
I left him one note on the kitchen counter. You should have known better than to mistake quiet for weak. Enjoy your freedom. You paid full price for it. Then I walked out. I didn't hear from Rick for 2 days. I knew he was out of state, probably busy playing house with Rita, thinking everything was under control. On the 3rd day, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Just one sentence. What the hell did you do? I smiled. First real smile I'd had in a while. I ignored the next 5 calls. Then I blocked him. A week later, I was at the DMV switching my car registration when I saw him.
Rick.
He was waiting outside my condo, pacing back and forth in the small parking lot like he didn't know what to do. I'd only been back from errands for 2 minutes when I saw him through the window. He looked different. Older. More unsure. I parked and stepped out slowly. He walked right up to me. You moved everything, he said. You stole from me. I looked at him dead in the eyes and said, No, Rick. I took what was mine. You gambled yours on Rita. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly trying to calm himself. This is crazy. We had an agreement. I retire, we travel, we downsize. You lied. I cut in. You had another woman. You spent our money on her. You thought I was too stupid or too soft to notice. He didn't deny it.
Just stood there.
She's nothing like you, he finally said. That's why you picked her, I said. She doesn't ask questions. She just lets you play the hero. His eyes narrowed. I want my house back. I actually laughed. It was never yours to begin with. You signed it over. You were too busy texting Rita to read the papers. He started shaking his head, like he couldn't believe what was happening. I lost my job for you, he blurted. I could have worked another 5 years. No, Rick. You quit because you thought you had a backup plan. You thought you had options. Now you have none. He left without saying another word. 3 days later, I got an email from a lawyer. Rick was trying to file a motion to freeze our joint retirement funds. The problem? The funds had already been split and allocated. Legally. I'd anticipated he'd try something. I responded through my own lawyer, who I'd quietly retained 6 weeks earlier, just in case. But Rick wasn't done. The next week, my friend Marta called me. He showed up at my house, she said. Asking if you're with someone. Asking if you're okay in the head.
What?
He told my husband you were having some sort of breakdown. That you emptied the accounts and ran off with a boyfriend. I could feel my hands start to shake. He was trying to poison the well. Make me look unstable. That's when I knew it wasn't just going to be a clean break. Rick was going to fight dirty. So I fought back. I gathered every piece of evidence. Every receipt, every photo, every transaction he made with Rita's name on it. I printed it all, put it into neat folders. And then I mailed copies to his company's board of directors, his old church pastor, his 2 adult kids from his first marriage, and Gary, the man who gave that awful toast with a cover letter that read, You laughed when he said I rode his coattails. Here's who he's really been carrying. The fallout from the folders was immediate. Rick called again, this time from a different number. I let it go to voicemail. Same tactic. Blame, anger, then desperation. You think you're clever, he said. You just made things worse for yourself. Worse for myself? He was unraveling. I could tell just from his voice. 2 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Rita. You're pathetic. Jealous old cow. He told me you'd try to ruin us. I stared at the screen for a while, then typed a response. I hope he told you he's broke now. Because you're about to be. She never replied. But later that night, I got a strange email from one of Rick's old coworkers. It was short and to the point. Did you know Rick was hiding bonuses from you for years? Ask about the offshore account in Barbados. Code name Oxley7. I sat frozen for a second. An offshore account? I forwarded the email to my lawyer. She started digging the next morning. Turns out, Rick had been hiding money outside the country for nearly a decade. Extra commissions from vendor kickbacks that he never reported. Probably $500,000 stashed away under fake shell corporations. And I wasn't entitled to any of it legally because he kept it secret and used a separate identity through a fake consulting firm. But that didn't stop me. I sent copies of the documents my lawyer found to the IRS. No note. No return address. Just raw files. Within 2 weeks, Rick's life imploded. The IRS started sniffing around his accounts. His pension plan got temporarily frozen pending review of undeclared income. The luxury SUV he had put in his name only? Repossessed when he couldn't make the payments on time. He'd been floating bills with credit while trying to pay Rita's rent. But Rita wasn't standing by him anymore. My friend Jessica, who worked at a bar in Polaris where Rita used to hang out, said she saw her with a new guy, a tattooed gym bro who looked 10 years younger than Rick. So, I paid Jessica a visit. You still have that security footage system? I asked. She nodded. 3 days later, I got exactly what I needed. A crystal clear clip of Rita sitting on Jim Bro's lap, telling her friend, Rick?
Please.
That guy was just my starter sugar daddy. I don't do broke. I uploaded it to a burner YouTube channel with no title, no tags, just the video. Then I texted the link to Rick. He didn't respond. But the biggest twist came when I visited Rick's ex-wife, Lana. We had barely spoken over the years, just the occasional Christmas card for the kids. But I always suspected she knew more about Rick than she ever let on. I showed up at her door with a bottle of wine and a box of papers. She opened the door and just said, about damn time. We sat down, and I told her everything. And she told me more. Rick had cheated on her too multiple times. Lied to her about savings. Stashed money away. He even tried to screw her over in the divorce until her brother, a cop, leaned on him hard. He doesn't just lie, she said. He destroys people who don't play along. Then she handed me something I never expected, a box of documents. Old tax filings. Rental agreements. Letters from vendors who were part of the original kickback scheme. He thought I didn't keep copies, she said. But I've been waiting for someone like you to finish the job. Lana's box of papers was the nail in Rick's coffin. I gave everything to my lawyer. She handed it off to the right people quietly. In less than a month, Rick was being audited. Not just by the IRS, but also by the Ohio Department of Taxation. Someone had flagged him for underreporting and suspected fraud. He lost his pension. The retirement money he thought would fund his new life with Rita?
Gone.
The woman he left me for?
Gone too.
Turns out Rita wasn't built for broke men with legal problems. She bailed as soon as she realized he couldn't afford her lifestyle anymore. Blocked his number. Deleted her videos. Vanished. Rick moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. Nothing fancy. I know this because he showed up one day at my condo. Uninvited. He looked thinner. His hair was messy, and he wore the same jacket he'd worn at his retirement party, only now it looked worn out, like him. I need help, he said quietly. I just stared. You destroyed me, he added. You took everything. No, Rick, I said. I took back what was mine. You gave everything else away. He started crying.
For real this time?
You think I deserve this? I looked him in the eyes.
Yes.
And so did I for staying with you too long, for ignoring the signs, for thinking loyalty meant silence. I shut the door in his face. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. From Rick's lawyer. He was trying to sue me for emotional distress. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. It went nowhere. Not only had I stayed within my legal rights, but he had documented proof of his own betrayal. Emails, texts, payments. He was the architect of his own downfall. But here's the part one didn't expect. A few months later, I got a call from Lana again. You should come to the hospital, she said. Rick's not doing well.
I didn't want to.
But something in me said I should go. Not for him, but for myself. He was lying in a bed, hooked to machines. Stroke. Minor, but enough to scare him.
He looked up when he saw me.
Eyes filled with shame. Regret. I messed up, he whispered. You were the best thing I ever had. No, I said, standing at the foot of his bed. You never had me. You just thought you owned me. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. Then I left. It's been almost a year now. I still live in my condo. I still tutor kids. I started traveling, just small trips. Savannah, Denver, Santa Fe. Sometimes I look at old pictures and wonder what version of me thought that life was enough. The woman who smiled at parties while men laughed at her. I don't feel sorry for Rick. But I don't hate him either. He showed me what it means to lose yourself in someone else's version of love. And I showed him what happens when that person finally wakes up. Now, when people talk about me, they don't say I was the quiet one. They say I was the one who walked away and never looked back.